Well, Masters 2 may have just ended, but the qualifiers for Masters 3 are just around the corner, and I don't know about y'all, but I cannot wait to see the best clash for their spot in Berlin. What's going on, ProGuides fam? I'm Kangas, and today we're going over the top 10 teams in the world right now. It's been 2 weeks since Iceland, and many top teams have made roster moves, resulting in some pretty exciting teams being formed. Since the Challengers qualifiers start at the end of June, it's very likely that we see some of these teams make deep runs in their respective regions. So of course this list is just our opinion, guys, and if you think we got anything wrong, let us know about it down in the comments below. But by saying that, if you disagree with us, you're also disagreeing with some of our high elo analysts and coaches, which while we're on the subject, you can always check out ProGuides.com and chat with them if you're struggling with your own game. Our rating and immortal coaches often play against these top best players anyway, allowing them to give you heads up on ever-evolving pro metas, providing you with the edge over your competition. We even have pro courses from players like Tense and Scream that cover topics like mastering the duelist role. So go book a session with one of our coaches and get all the tips and tricks that you need to dominate. Now, first up on our list is, of course, Sentinels. Sentinels ran through Iceland without dropping a single map, with only Fnatic pushing them to the edge. With the official signing of Tens, Sentinels will be looking to establish an era of international dominance by lifting the trophy at Masters 3. In case you're living under a rock and are not aware of Sentinels, they are a North American super team featuring Shazam, potentially the best IGL in the region, Sick, one of the most versatile players in the game, playing everything from Sage to Phoenix at a very high level, and someone who's often overlooked by his team. And with a team name like Sentinels, surely have to have one of the best to fill that role too, and that's where Dapper comes in. He's been regarded as one of NA's strongest Sentinel players for a long time now, and it's only fitting that he's on a team with the same name. Zombs is the man left with the responsibility of playing the underappreciated controller role. This role is not pretty, but it has to be done. While he doesn't often hard carry statistically, he can always be trusted to set his team up for maximal success. And of course, you cannot talk about Sentinels without talking about their wildcard duelist star, Tens. Tens is without a doubt one of, if not the, current best player in the world. His explosive, in-your-face playstyle forces you to respect him or get your head deleted. Their dominance in Reykjavik has solidified them as the team to beat and a shoo-in to qualify. Now, as the only team to push Sentinels to the edge, it shouldn't be a surprise that Fnatic is our second team to watch out for. Since the additions of Durka and Magnum, Fnatic has been on a tear. They've only lost to 2 teams, those being Liquids and Sentinels, both of whom finished top 4 at Masters 2. This Fnatic lineup has all the tools to reach the next level. A young jet prodigy in Durka, who's been playing a key part of Fnatic's spearhead to the top of the European scene. His unique playstyle and his crisp first bullet aim allows him to be a threat every single round, no matter the weapon. Boaster is an IGL who loves to be at the forefront of the ever-changing meta, and he also oozes with charisma. This is often an overlooked quality of an IGL, but if you can stay positive and keep your team mentally in the game, then the world is your oyster. Talking about being on the pulse of the meta, Mystic has also become a Viper one-trick, with 13 out of the last 23 maps being played on Viper. His deadly lineups have helped Fnatic establish one of the current best compositions on Bind, which was flawless against top opposition until the finals versus Sentinel. And the other new addition to Fnatic is Magnum. He is the definition of a TikTok cypher, and he's got so many unique and cool setups that keep Sentinel players glued to their screens trying to see what he's going to do next with his utility. But Magnum and Durka are not the only 2 youngsters on the team. At 17, Domo was the youngest player in the final of Masters 2. You might think switching from Fortnite, a third-person battle royale, to a first-person tactical FPS is daunting, but Doma's taking this in stride. The young Croatian has established himself as one of Europeans' best races, making the Doma-Durka double duelist a duo that many have failed to topple. And this leads us to our question of the day. Who do you want to see the most at Masters 3? Honestly, I really want to see Fnatic qualify for Berlin solely for their funny and unique winning celebrations. And although he didn't win, Boaster was absolutely the star of the show in my opinion, bringing his funny personality to interviews and always making me laugh with his stage entrances. Sometimes the team doesn't have to win over our hearts. But let me know what you're looking forward to in the comments down below. Fun Plus Phoenix is a team that has seen itself so close to multiple wins, but could never take the trophy home. You may be confused as to why they're so high up on this list, but they have been considered to be one of Europe's elite teams for quite a while now. This team was considered the favorite going into the EMEA playoffs, but this was short-lived with a disappointing group stage exit after losses to Team Liquid and Gambit respectively. The best way to describe this time is having insane potential, but always falling at the last hurdle. In Masters 1, they lost to a red-hot Ascend in the semifinals, who went on to win the entire tournament. At first strike, they lost to the underdogs of some FC, the core of which now makes up Fnatic. Even looking back to the Ignition series, the first Riot-supported events, they'd always make it to the final where they would eventually lose to G2. The brains behind FPX is Angel, a Ukrainian veteran who's known for getting the most out of his roster and for consistent fragging. Most teams choose to put their IGL on Sentinel or Smoker, but interestingly enough, Angel has been playing Reyna and Phoenix. Zypan GoKill was this team's name before getting signed, and that says a lot about this guy's skill. Zypan lives up to the billing, having a 273 ACS on Raze throughout his career. To put this into perspective of how consistently crazy he goes, Doma, who is often considered one of EU's best Razes, has an average of 265 ACS since he started playing professionally. The last roster move this team made was the addition of Kaza Sentinel player Damasic, a very aggressive player who loves to create space, often locking down areas of the map and making the opposition uncomfortable. Now, these guys are often compared to Sentinels in how well they adapt to the opposition, the strength of their individuals, and their anti-stratting. It will only be a question of how well they can overcome their mental blocks of losing right before the finish line. Now, 100 Thieves on paper have a stacked roster, and let's be honest, this is true. 100 Thieves narrowly missed out on qualifying for Iceland with 2-1 losses to both Sentinels and Envy, with the latter featuring 2 13-11 losses. Ouch. This roster has a very strong mixture of young firepower and valuable experience. The mix of new and old makes this a roster that I am definitely sold on. Everyone on this roster, with the exception of Asuna, has played Counter-Strike at the highest level at some point, with Nitro reaching close to the top of the world with Team Liquid, and Ethan having been right on Nitro's tail at certain points. Meanwhile, Steel and Hiko are seasoned veterans who have found a new playing ground in the form of Valorant. Asuna's lack of experience certainly hasn't hindered him either, as he is one of North America's brightest stars. His gameplay just straight speaks for him, as his raw talent brings him consistently to the top of the scoreboard. When he's in the zone, he is literally unstoppable. And talking about never missing, Ethan only switched to Valorant in February, and quickly established himself as one of the region's top riflers. Now our next team up is Heretics. This team is known for winning first strike, as well as reaching the finals of Masters 1, eventually losing 3-2 to Ascend. But recently, they've had a complete revamp of the roster. Niso has been taking a break since Masters 1, Nuki and Avova have been transferred to G2, Pora has went to play on a team from his native Turkey, and Rubino has been benched. All of this has left Lowell in a bad spot trying to build a team capable of matching their past success, but let me tell you, they've managed to create quite a super team. G2 traded Artis and Pathetic for Nuki and Avova. Sure, Artis has been out of form recently, but rumors have been pointing to him returning to Jet. For anyone that didn't watch Valorant competitively in the beta, Artis was considered to be Europe's best Jet, and some in the community even pointed to him being one of the best players in all of 2020. He didn't lose a single best of 3 in the early stages of the game, and he's currently 17 for 17 in finals. You cannot fluke this level of dominance. Niso was nothing short of a Reyna god, meaning anyone coming in to fill his position has huge shoes to fill. But Alorante was Europe's scariest unsigned duelist. His aim is disgusting. I mean, this guy's even got a higher headshot percentage than the headshot machine himself, Scream. Personally, I believe that he has the skill set to be one of the very best in all of the game, not just in Europe. And finally, they signed Monster, a 16-year-old Czech Sentinel player. He has a mind-boggling 270 ACS on Killjoy, making him statistically the best Sentinel player in the world, providing the backbone to this already stacked team. And in case you couldn't tell, I'm very hyped for this roster, as they have the firepower alone to qualify for Masters 3 and just dominate the region. But while we're on the topic of domination, Vision Strikers is our next team. In case you haven't heard of them, I'm about to blow your mind. Vision Strikers won 104 games in a row, asserting themselves as the absolute undisputed kings of Korea. Unfortunately, the fairy tale had to end as they missed out on qualifying for Masters 2 with a heartbreaking loss to Newturn. And now I know you're going to ask, why is Vision Strikers in this spot and not Newturn? And the reason is consistency. Vision Strikers were consistently the dominant team in Korea for 10 months. Newturn just beat them at the correct time, when the whole world was going to be watching. Newturn reached top 4 at Masters 2, outperforming the expectations of most people, and this wasn't by abusing some broken mechanics or agents, they were just tactically and structurally better than most of the opposition. But considering the fact that they lived in the shadow of Vision Strikers for so long, I cannot wait to see what the big boss in Vision Strikers can do internationally. Vision Strikers IGL Glow retired shortly before Masters 2, and this has led to the signing of Buzz and Maka. But if that seems like a big hit to their power, just know that if you're at the top of a region and you need players, you then get to choose the absolute best that your region has to offer. So I'd expect some insane potential from the new talents. Now, Liquid is our last European team on the list, and many of you will be surprised to see them so low on our rankings, but let me explain myself. During qualifiers for Masters 2, Liquid were down a map and down 11-10 on Bind. Link was in a 1v4, and he won one of the craziest clutches I have ever seen in Valorant. Liquid capitalized on this and won the map 13-15 and demolished a deflated BDS on Ascent. To many of us looking back, we may think, of course, Liquid was going to win, but at the time, BDS was the favorite, and the UK majority team was actually the underdog. It was later reported by Nell, a very reputable and respected French leaker, that Liquid were close to signing Nevera, Screams' younger brother. Now, we will all remember the Liquid that qualified for Iceland and dominated in the EMEA finals, but this roster could be very different if this didn't happen. Management were about to make a move because of the disappointing results at Challengers 1 and 2. While I do think that they could qualify for Masters 3, Liquid is so low down on this list because the mood of the team has the potential to sour, and the added stress of knowing that the organization was about to remove someone if it wasn't for their run, could get to some of the players mentally. But of course, we can still always rely on Scream to put on a masterclass every time he plays. Man, version 1 was a Cinderella story. A team that had just recently formed and had been putting in the hours to get to the top. No one even expected them to qualify for Iceland. Being knocked to the lower bracket in the quarterfinals by Sentinels left them with an uphill battle. They ran the entire way through the lower bracket, picking up wins over Envy, Energy, and Cloud9, being underdogs the whole way. But right before Masters 2, version 1 was struck by every player's worst nightmare, visa issues. They were forced to play with Jammies in Iceland instead of Whippy, an aggressive Viper player who had really good lurks. Yet despite of having a sub, this team proved to have the right mixture of reliable strats, strong structure, and explosive firepower. Penny impressed many in Reykjavik and is now considered to be one of the world's best Jet players. He's very similar to Durka in that he shows no fear, plays very aggressively, and has just crazy mechanics. This team has the correct ingredients to qualify for Masters 3 and cement their name as a top team in Valorant. Now, the other team at Masters 2 that went on a Cinderella run was Newturn. We've already touched on Newturn, but let's quickly focus on how their IGL Solo and Smoker Perry have retired from competitive play. These two losses will be massive blows to the team, but with the rumored signing of Xin, Korea's best Counter-Strike player, what they might lose in experience, they will definitely gain in firepower. The team showed that they had very strong structure and tactical depth. Their unique playstyle only aided their success internationally, as many teams just hadn't played against anything like it before. All they need to do is sort out their Haven, and they will definitely be a championship contending team. But before we get into our last team that's in the top 10, we have our honorable mentions. EU only has 4 spots at Masters 3, so it would be unfair to include more than 4 EU teams in the list. We already mentioned Ascend more than once on this list, so of course it's only right that this team gets a mention here. This team is powered by CNED, Europe's best Jet. He's even considered by analysts like Sean Garris to be the best in the game, full stop. I can only describe watching him play as a masterclass of Jet opping. He simply doesn't do anything wrong. I mean, you have to be doing something right if Tense calls you a monster and version 1's coach says that you walk on water. Maybe we have Valorant's Messiah on this team. And our other honorable mention is Gambit. Gambit knocked out FPX in EMEA finals and lost them 13-11 twice in the opening game. And many top players in the EU have openly talked about getting smacked by Gambit in scrims. Tense even in a recent interview said that Gambit owned them in scrims. Nats is Gambit's Sentinel player and Viper player, and he's one of the very few players that have been making Cypher work on Icebox. And this is because of his very unique playstyle and his tilt-inducing setups. Anyway, that's it for the honorable mentions, so let's get on to the last team. Lastly, we have Gamelanders. Brazil is a region that is renowned for its individual skill and explosive duelists. Gamelanders have John and MW Zera on their roster, often considered 2 of, if not the very best players in Brazil. They are the complete package of incredible raw aim and just natural game sense. Gamelanders were among the top 4 favorites in Brazil to qualify for Iceland, and they dropped the ball when it mattered most. But I believe this team will come back more hungry than ever and with the mindset to assert themselves as the best team in Brazil again. Although Brazil had a poor showing in Masters 2, they're not out of the game yet, and I think that Gamelanders will have their eyes on Masters 3 to show the world what Brazilian Valorant can do. Well, everyone, that's all we have for our top 10 teams of the world. If you liked the video, then make sure to drop a like and consider subbing if you enjoyed the content and want to catch up with us in the future. We upload new videos just like this every single day, and the best way to stay notified of that is by ringing the notification bell. And lastly, don't forget to check out ProGuides.com either to gain access to some truly amazing coaching or any of our pro courses. Once again, I've been Kangas. Best of luck on the grind, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.